Hi, everybody. It's Elektra Yao, artist visa lawyer and entertainment lawyer. I'm back today. I want to continue our discussion on trademarks from yesterday or from the past couple of days. And I want to talk to you about something relatively, I think that it might seem obvious to some, but not so obvious to other people. I want to talk to you about international trademark protection and whether or not that exists if you file for a trademark in the US. So the answer to that is no. If you file for trademark protection here in the US with the US Patent and Trademark Office, you will get protection here in America, in the United States. That doesn't mean that if somebody is using that same intellectual property that you've protected in, for example, the UK, that you're going to get the protections in the UK. You have to undergo that process all over again with the office in the country that you're seeking protection in. So it's not that there's this international protection just because you file in the US. You get protection in the US, but if somebody chooses to use that, let's say you trademark the word I'm the greatest, for example, in the US, and somebody is using I'm the greatest in the UK, then you're not going to be afforded the protection of British rights, English rights, UK rights, because your protection is located here in the US. So you'd have to undergo that whole process again in the UK. This is really, really important to understand, especially when you're crafting and thinking about your career long term. It's really important to think about what your goals are going to be, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, in the next 4 years, 5 years, etc. That way you can start to try to map out and strategize where you think you're going to want to need protection. So, for example, this comes up a lot in the context of musicians, for example. So if you are a musician and you plan on touring, for example, and you've trademarked your band name or your musician name or your artist name, and you know that you're going to be touring in different countries, or maybe you're very, very popular in a certain country. You're going to want to make sure that you have that protection in that country. And this happens very often in the careers of musicians. It's not unheard of for musicians to tour internationally and maybe be popular in the US and in China, for example. So this is something to think about when you're strategizing about your career and your long-term success, especially when you're thinking about monetizing your brand. Try to really envision and strategize with your attorney where you see yourself in your career in the future. Everything that is concerns US law or protection under US law is about being in the US and US territory. You cannot expect US protection of your trademark in another country. So if somebody is using a phrase that you've trademarked here in the US, you cannot get that US protection for that phrase that is owned by somebody else in a different country. So think about your career long term, think about strategy long term. And if you envision your career being a global career, you're going to think about wanting to trademark your phrase or your logo or your sound in the US and also in the markets that you envision being a part of in the future. So something to think about. International trademark protection doesn't exist. You want to start by filing your trademark application in the US and then start to strategize and think about international markets that you think you could potentially monetize and make money in. So I think that this was an interesting discussion. I hope that it was helpful for you guys, especially if you use this information in conjunction with the short trademark guide that I published yesterday. I think that it's a really great tool to begin your trademark journey, and thinking about international trademark protection is something that should definitely be a part of your journey. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I will see you later today at 4 o'clock, and we're going to talk about creative career advice. Thanks, everybody.